of Sodor is a busy, bustling place. There is always lots for the engines to do. One morning, Thomas was shunting trucks in the yard.
And it was there Top Hat informed him that the fishing village had caught their biggest catch yet. Well, if that location is called the fishing village, I sure hope so. Imagine if the fishing village was known for making their biggest catch of bears. It was there Thomas was sent to help Arthur with the delivery. Problem is, Thomas was not that enthused.
Phew, he puffed. What a horrible smell. Arthur arrived. Arthur warned Thomas that the route to Brendam Docks was bumpy. Only take 5 trucks at a time, said Arthur, and go slow and steady.
Slow and steady? Why does this sound like a story I've covered recently? Is this episode where Thomas gets it right? If so, I've already covered that. Shouldn't this story be about, Arthur? Besides, fans know 2 things by now. Thomas has never had luck with fish since season 1, and 2, fish in general have never been easy dealing with on the island of Sodor. We haven't seen one successful flying kipper run yet. Anyway, Thomas thought the best way to do his job is doing it all in one shot. Right.
The troublesome trucks decided to have some fun. The trucks wiggled and they giggled. They made Thomas's journey very bumpy. Some of the fish were shaken loose. Yuck!
Those weird laughs. And ew, I agree that probably doesn't feel very pleasant. But at the same time, what did Arthur tell you, Thomas? Slow and steady, and 5 trucks at a time. But no, instead Thomas kept going, but didn't realize his consequences after he got over Gordon's Hill, which should have been quite obvious since he's gone over it many times.
Thomas was out of control. Thomas braked as hard as he could, but the fish trucks were too heavy. Oops!
Quite honestly, I don't know what's funnier. The fact that viewers get to see not only Bulstrode's face, but also Toad's face on the first troublesome truck, or the fact that Thomas's long-as-hell train of trucks didn't even make Salty move from where he was sitting. What is he made of? Beryllium carbonic alloy? Doesn't matter, because the one who was hurting later, emotionally, was Thomas, after Top Hat had to remind him he wasn't listening or being safe.
This time, Thomas shunted only 5 trucks together. He took a deep breath and chuffed away.
Yeah, something he should have been doing when he started. I'm sorry, but this is silly. I can't believe this story is about Thomas and not Arthur. This would have been such an opportune time to develop that tank engine on steroids. More, since he loves fish so much. Not so. Instead, Thomas is of main focus, and he learns how to take things piece by piece. Something he should already know!
As soon as he delivered the first trucks, Thomas went back to collect the next 5. His coupling smelled of kippers and his cabin smelled of cod, but he was working so hard he forgot all about the smell.
Amazing. Almost like he knew how to do that to begin with. I'm going to ask a different question now. Where's Arthur during all this? I thought the whole line of trucks Thomas took at the beginning were all that were there aside from what Arthur took when he left. Shouldn't he be at least helping out? Surprisingly, even without him, Thomas made out okay with the delivery.
Thomas raced as fast as he could. His axles ached and his buffers were bashed, but he got to the docks just in time.
That's what happens when you work your buffers off. That music was really nice to hear, by the way. But that wasn't the end of Thomas's day. After receiving the really useful engine confirmation from Top Hat, Thomas headed to the washdown where he met up with the 2 engines who should have been highlighted in this story, including Harvey, who was seen earlier.
Arthur and Salty were already there. Getting clean is lovely, puffed Arthur. Best part of the day, said Salty. Especially when you smell of fish, said Thomas.
Hilarious! Not. This story wasn't horrible, but it was not up to par with the other episodes for a number of reasons. The biggest one, which I've already said, is that it should have focused on Arthur. He's the engine who likes working with fish. Seeing him do his job with another engine who never handled such a train before would have been cool. Then, that plot really would have been a fish out of water scenario. Pardon the pun. Having Salty or Harvey would have been fun to see interact with Arthur. Instead, we get Thomas. Why? We already know how much great luck he has with fish, especially with Something Fishy of Season 7 involving the same characters. Stupid! That and the title to this episode. I mentioned before, like the other episode that's rather close in plot to this, Thomas Gets It Right. We must be seriously losing creative thoughts here. Fish was already used in Season 4. Ugh. And another thing. Thomas not knowing how to move slow and steady. Did he not learn or remember anything from Thomas Gets It Right a couple stories ago? The good I can say came from this episode were the weird usage of troublesome truck faces during Thomas's crash, the fact that Salty was unfazed by it all, and that we see Arthur, at the very least. Hearing the other version of the troublesome trucks laugh always makes me chuckle too. Visuals were underwhelming here this time. We see Brendam Docks and Gordon's Hill, but really the fishing village had the most angles to look at. I will say the sweeping camera movements and the slow motion used during Thomas's fish slaps was well done though. As for music, all we heard was Welk and Hartshorn's incidental music, and the rest was Thomas's new theme. This is why I wanted Arthur to be focused on, so we could also hear his theme again too. Next episode is Emily's Adventure. Thanks for watching.